In the last video, you learned about Vue, the prerequisites, the system requirement, and how to install a basic Vue application. So let's get going in this video where I promised we will create a custom project so that you will have more understanding of how everything in Vue works, how the component interacts with each other. Let's get going. So we go back to our project. If you notice, I have removed everything from here, all the components and everything, so that we can start from scratch together. So let's get going. So first thing is we go to the main.js and we'll write some code here. So first one would be import. So here is a function create app from Vue, and then next would be import app from. So since we are in the same directory, so we will use the dot app.view. Next one would be create app and then app. Now remember, this could be anything. It could be ABC as well, but it's a convention to use app. So we are using the same. Now what we can do is we can store the same inside this variable so that we can use. So it's basically simplifying the code a bit. So we can now app dot mount and we can use that CSS selector. So with this, our main.js is ready to be used. Now we go to app.view. In the app.view, you will notice we have this .view extension. For all the .view extensions, we need to follow a specific format. So for example, we need to have this template, and inside this goes the HTML, and then we need to have this script tag as well. Now if I refresh this, save this, and for example, yeah, I need to run as well. So now first I need to make sure I'm into the right directory. So cd first app, and I'll do npm run dev. Now you see this is as an empty file. Let's create a project where we can show a list of users, and we can create a simple form where we'll enter a new user. So things like that. So let's get going. So first we see the screen as empty. We can write something here. So for example, current users. We'll save it and go back. We see the current users updated here. So now I want to show the list of all the users inside the table as well. But before that, what we need to do is we need to have the data somewhere. So we have this function, then we have data, and we have this return inside of it. Here we will declare our users array. Now we will have it as ID John. So we must have an ID linked to linked as part of uh, array, so that we don't end up with an error. So because every object needs to be unique. So name will be John, age will be you can put it anything, name, age, phone, 00040011111, email. localhost.com. Now what I can do is I can just copy it over. So now this will be Steve 6. So let's shuffle it a bit. So it will be Steve. It will be, we can make it Sarah. So with this we have our users array ready. Now what I want is I want to show all this data in a table form here. But before that, uh, what we can do is we can create another component. So it will be user data view. Now we need to have this structure followed. So we will have this template script. In script, what we'll now do is first we will have to do this default. Now we need to get the data of these like array into this child component. For that we have a props function. So here we'll use this property, this props, and we will declare all those values here. So all those uh, keys that we used here as an object, so we will use them here. So for example, id. So first one will be id. So id is type of string and required is true. Then we have this name with type string and required true. Age type string, type would be number, required true. And then font type number, sorry, number, required true. And the last one would be email type string, required true. Now we have all the data available here, which can be used inside this template. So for example, I want to show all the data in the table. So we go back to app.view. We will have this table. So it will be t hat and th. So we can have like th, 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 th. So name, age, phone, email, and then what I will do is I will create a t body here, and then here I want to show the data from this user data. Now what I will do is so it requires us to have like tr. in tr, sorry, so we have this tr in td, so we will have these four of them. So now we will use another property like interpolation. So here we will use name, and then we will use age, phone, email. Now we want to use this component. For this we need to go back to main.js, and here what we'll do is import user data from components and user data. Since it resides in a components folder, so we will use this dot to for the same directly, and then components and user data. Then we need to register this component as well. For that we do need to do app.component in user data. So now this component can be used here. So basically what we can do is we can run a for loop. So in Vue we have this as v4, and then what we can do is it will be user in users. So we can have first, let's do it key user dot id. So similarly we can have this as id user dot id. For now let's name each email, phone. I just prefer to copy and paste for faster coding. Name, age, email, name, age, phone, email. Let's save it and let's see if we got something. Yeah, we got the desired result. Now what we need to do is I want it to look a little nicer. For that, quickly what we can do is we can open Bootstrap CDN, open this particular link, copy it here. At some point later we will use it as a part of our application itself, other than the CDN link. But for now let's just use this method as well. So we will open index.html and then we paste the link here. Now what we can do is we can use some bootstrap for a little magic. So table class will be table. We'll close this one, so we'll see a better format here. So and what we can do is everything inside this we can wrap inside a container. So you can copy this and use a little tab for a cleaner code. So hit save and you go back here and see this. And what you can also do is make it more nicer. So let's do something like, maybe you can do header. H1 class will be free. Then what we can do is even this can be wrapped inside a section. And this can be dev class. Center PG light for background light. Right. So now what we can also do is maybe we want to show a serial number here, right? Or maybe you want to do something more with the table. So what we can do is we can add a serial number here. For that serial number, so how do we show a serial number? Mm, Maybe we have to manipulate something. So let's see how we can do that. Do we need to add something here, or we need to? So let's do one thing. Let's add a serial number here as well. That type will be number. Required will be true. So now what we need to do is here we can do td as interpolation as, then we have this serial number. We go back here and we don't have serial number here, so maybe what we can do is we will write a code for the same. We will have this serial number. So now what we have here is we can keep a bracket here. So, and then first is user, and we always get an index here, right? So that index can be used here. So for example, we can do plus plus index, so that uh, every time a for loop runs we have a value here. So that's correct. So we got 1 2 3 here. So like this you can do many of your tasks. So you need to be just aware of all these functionalities that you can use, right? And let's dive more into this. Now let's add a new user to this list, but using a form. So it will be a dynamic stuff. So for that, we go back to our code. We click on components, we click on new file. So it will be a new user view. And then we'll write some code here. So it will be template, then it will be form, and then we will use some bootstrap classes. So it will be div class form group, then it will be label. So for example, label for then it will be input type text. Last will be form control. We can add required here. ID will be maybe username, and we have to use v model here so that we can link it to our when we are fetching the data. So we can do like entered name. Now we can copy this. We can create like name, age, phone, email, and the last one would be a submit button. So it will be a button type submit. Class will be button, and then button I believe primary. So these are the CSS classes for the bootstrap, and here we can give button. So let's change it quickly. So name, age, phone, and then email. So name for age, for phone, and then for email. Here what we'll do is user age, then we will have it as user phone, and we have it as user email. Same thing here, entered age, entered phone, entered email. So we have our form ready, but we need to do some more stuff with the form. So we will use form reference. So ref user form, and then we want to prevent this form uh, to be submitted without having the values filled. So for that we use @submit.prevent, and then there will be a function, a method that we will call. So let's name it submit user. Now since the HTML part is done, we will create script and write some code here. So first thing is export default, then data. In the return we will have some values already. For example, enter name. Initially it will be empty, so same thing will be for entered age, then entered phone, then entered email. Now after data we will have the methods. Methods, we have this submit submit user, I believe submit user. So we will have to use the same name as defined here. Submit user is a function defined under methods. So now what happens is, this is the format for the function. So what we will do is we will do this dollar this dot dollar emit, and then we will call a function add user. Then if we want to access this, then we will have this dot entered name, this dot we'll basically pass on the parameters name entered age, this dot entered phone, this dot entered email. Now what we need to do is, first, as you know, we need to uh, import new user from components, new user view, and we need to register it app.component new user, new user. So now what we need to do is we can go to our app.view. After the table ends, we can do new user here, and then if you go here we see the fields here. So let's say I cannot, yeah. Then what happens is, if you remember, we had this as the dollar so add user. For this what you have to do is, here you have to do add user, and we will have to write a function. So add new user, and then what you need to do is, here after the return and this data, we will have this methods, and we will have this add new user. And if you remember, we had these as parameters, so name, age, phone, and email. So those will be passed on here as well, so we can keep it something relative. So a name, age, phone, and email. Now in order to create a new user, let's create an object here. So it will be const new user, and we'll copy all these fields, and we'll have all these as the dynamic values. So for that, what we need to do is we will have id as new date to ISO string, and then it will be name, which will be passing it from those parameters that we uh, declared here. So it will be age, it will be phone, this will be an email. So now once we have this ready, what we need to do is we need to push this object into the array. So this dot users users from here. Dot push, and then new user. And remember, we need to add emits here. It's a convention to use emits so that if multiple developers are working on the same project, and they are well aware of how many emits are being used in one particular code, uh, because as the project grows, there will be a very lengthy code, and it will be difficult for developers to look inside the code. So using emits, it's very easier for developers to understand what's going on. So now what we need to do is, uh, we'll basically check this out. So just refresh it once, and let's say Michael, age 30, phone, kill, local host.com. We click on submit, and we see the data inserted successfully here. But I feel there is one thing we can get rid of. So if we submit the data, we don't see this got reset. So in order to do that, what we can do is we go back to new user, and here after we run this, what we can do is we can use this dot dollar refs, and then new user form. So new user form, this one I'm referring to this form using this dollar refs dot new form user form, and then dot reset. Now just refresh it, and we'll do the same thing again. Michael 30. And we hit submit, and it gets empty this time around. Now let's make it more presentable, and then we will add some more functionality to it to make it more interesting, and we'll get to know Vue better. So let's inspect it. So we see we have a table, the table that is having all the user data, and then we have this form which is used to enter new user to the table. What we can do is we can create a style table th comma table td, and then we'll add some border to it, and then we will add some padding here. So we'll copy this one, and then what we can do is we can go to the assets, and then we can create a file custom.css, and then we can go to app.view. We at the end we can add a style tag, and then we can import our style. So if you see, we are in the same directory as app.view. Then we will use dot slash assets, then custom.css. I'll add the style here, and we'll add a comment to make it more organized. Go back to a page, we refresh, and we see we have the style applied. Now what we can also do is we can give some margin at the bottom, If you see, we it is not being applied here. So what could be the reason is, so there could be some other style that may be overwriting uh, our, our CSS. Then what we can do is we can add this important. So we will add this important here, and then we will see we have some margin bottom applied. So we can copy this one, go back to our custom style here. We can add this one as well. So the same way we can add a new header here as well. So this is in the app.view, and then we have this new user entered from here. You can use this tabs. So we have these this as current users, add new user. Now let's add more fields to it. So what we can do is we can go to the app, to the view file, and when we'll add the action, and then we go back to user data here. I'll add button class. I'll use bootstrap classes. So button primary. So what I can use this button is for, I can use it to toggle the users. I can use it to hide some information. For example, if I want to hide the phone number, for example, so I can use that here as well, like for hide phone. And then let's save this one. Let's save this. So we have this action field, hide phone. Before that, I also wanted to tell you like how we can toggle the information, how we can toggle the entire information. For example, we can have a button at the top, like uh, show all users and hide all users, something like that. So how we can do that? So we can go to the app.view. In the return itself, we can do like show all users. First letter for every word should be capital. First one can be smaller. By default, we can set it to true, right? And then what we can do is, maybe at the top, after this h1 tag, we can add like a tag. It can have the same like button primary as the classes. Ref would be blank, and then we can have this role button, and then we can have a text that says like hide users, because by default we have the users displayed, because we are using a true value here. Let's save it and see, did we get something? Yeah, we got this button, hide users. So what I want is, I want to click on this button and I want this information to be hidden, and then when I click it back, it should show. So how we can do that? If you uh, think from a technical point. So what we need to do is maybe we need to call a function on a click event, so that will hide the users from this table, right? So in order to do that, what we can do is uh, we have to create a function. In order to create a function, we need to go to the methods. So we had one method here which we were using to add a new user. Then we can add a new method. So maybe we can create a name like toggle users. Now if you see, we have this show all users, and you know how we can use the value here. So within this we can use it like this dot show all users is equal to, and then not equal to this dot show all users. So what happens is, first it will check if it is really true, then it will be turned to false. So on every click, it will check if it is true, it will be set to false. If it is false, it will be set back to true. Now we all also need to call this function. So how we can do is we can use add rate click event, and then we can call this function. So let's save it and let's see if we really got what we wanted. So it's not working. In such event, what you have to do is you have to check why it's not working, because we are using a tag and then we are using href, so it is refreshing the page. In order to prevent that, what we can do is we can do dot prevent here. Now if you go back, refresh once again, so at least we are not uh, getting the page refreshed, but the information is not hidden. Why? The reason being is I'm doing something, but the table doesn't know that this button is pushed and a function was called and something should happen. In order to do that, what we need to do is we go back to our table. Here what we need to do is we have to use if condition. So in view we use vif, and then we call this show users function here as well. Sorry, it would be the show all users. Yeah, so we will call show all users. If it will be true, then it will be the information will be shown. If is false, it will be hidden. So we can try that one. So if you see, it's working fine. And you will also notice that there is one issue. The issue is, if I'm hiding it, it should now show users instead of hide users, right? So how we can make that dynamic is we go back to our code. Here I want this value to be dynamic. What I can do is I will use a condition. I will use show all users here. If it is true, then I want to show the information as hide. Else I want to show it as show. So if you see now, it's working fine. So likewise, you can do many things within the table. For example, if you want to hide the phone number, you can call a function that will hide the phone number. So let's do the same here. So for that, what you need to do is you have to call a function, right? So where will that information be? You have to go to user data, and here you need to call a function. So at the rate click, here you can call that function, maybe toggle user info or something like that, or toggle phone to be precise. Toggle phone, and then we have to have this as a method as well. So what we will do is here we don't. Okay, so after props, what we'll do is we will add a method. So here after props we will add methods. Here will toggle phone method will be called. Now what I have to do is same way as we did in app.view. Here, if you remember, we added this show you all users. Likewise, we will add like data property, and then return. Now what we can do is we can show font, and then we can set it to true, and then show phone number. Show phone number. If you remember how we can access this is this dot show phone number is equal to not equal to this dot show phone number. Now this is a button, so we don't have to do the dot prevent as we had to do when we were trying to use the function here, because it is an a tag. So that's why I wanted you to show the difference and how we can use these modifiers. So then hide phone. But if you remember, we have to do more than just hide, calling the function here. So if you remember, we have to do something like if. So if will be, then we have to use this if show phone number. So let's see. Yeah. Now the issue is the phone number is gone, but you see the table format has gone wrong. In order to prevent that, what we can do is we can do a VLs as well. In VLs, we can do like star, 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 and then now if you see, we have this stars here. Now the same thing here, we can have this keyword as dynamic. So for that, you know what we need to do here. What we can do is show phone number. If it is true, then we will hide it. Else we will show it. So it's working perfectly, and it should work for every. So now this is interesting, correct? Let's now see how we can do something like we need to maybe check the duplicacy. So there will be no duplicate data entered. So we can have a maybe name could be the same, but email should an email or phone number should not be the same. Then how we can do that? So what we will do is we go to our app.view. Not app.view, sorry. It will be where we are adding. Yeah. Now let's dive a bit more, and then we what we can do now is we can check for the duplicate data. So we can check for the phone number and email, so that uh, if there is a duplicate phone that we are trying to enter, it should throw us an error. How we can do that is we go to our app.view. Here you remember how we added a new user. Then here what we can do is we can check if phone number exists. For that, what we have to do is we have to loop through this dot users from here, and then dot find, and we have this user dot phone, which is the phone from the array. Now if condition can be used, if phone number exists, we should uh, show an error. So for now, just adding an alert. Phone number exists. Else part would be number, no duplicate record found, and then let's comment it for now. Now let's do ABC like 44. Let's copy one of the number. We submit and we see phone number exists because it does exist. Now let's do the same, and then we will change it a bit, and then we'll see no duplicate record found. So it's working as expected. Now what I want to do is I want to add the new user if there is no duplicate record found. For that, what we can do is we can add it in the else part. The first part would be showing an error, and what we can do is when the here what we can do is we can uh, add, for example, uh, like element where we can show this error instead of showing it in the alert. We can show it here. So for example, we can have like div class. So it's a bootstrap alert classes we can use. So alert would be alert success if you want to show the success message. So it should have id so that we can use it in our javascript function. Success message, role would be alert, and then style will be, we should not show it by default, so it will only be shown once v does have an error. So we can copy this one. Let's move this space. Here it will be a warning if we see the duplicate data or whatever errors message we want to show, the warning message or error message. Now what we have to do is we go back to our app.view. Here, when we are trying to add new user, and then here what we can do is we can get the success element, which will be document.get element id. So it will be success message, and then warning al, it will be document.get element id, and it was warning message. Now we can use these elements to show a message. First, what we need to do is this will be for the warning. So warning el dot style dot display block, and in this case what we can do is warning el in HTML. So we can show the same message here as well. We'll copy this one. After we have pushed the record, we can show the message. So it will be success. Now what we also have to do is we have to make this one none, because it should not show if it is an error message. Likewise for the this one, it will be none. So let's see if it is working. So we can remove now and be removed. So let's see. Let's do some real name. Let's say Michael 34. First we will use the same phone number, Michael at local from phone number exists, so it is working fine. Let's do it same way, Michael, but let's change the phone number to maybe 22 here. Did I enter the same message? Oh, sorry, it will be new record edit successfully. So we will add it here once again just to show you it's working fine. And we see the record updated here. So that's how you can check the duplicate data. If it's there, then it will throw an error. If it's not there, the new record will be added. Now let's do one more thing. For example, we can delete a particular record. For that, what we can do is we can go to the user data. This we can shrink, we don't need it right now. Then here, after this button, we can copy this button, and then we can maybe delete. And then what we can do is delete user. So we don't need dynamic data here. So it will be delete user because that will be a function. So it will be a warning class here. So now you know what we need to do is we have to create a method. So it will be delete user method. And then what we have to do is it will be this dot dollar emit. We have this delete user, and then we have to use this id which is coming as a prop. Now what we have to do is we have to go back to the um, app.view, and then we go here. Here we have to do is at the rate delete user is equal to, then we will call a function here. We can call like delete user info. So this will be a method. In order to then what we have to do is this is one method. Here we can add this method. So if you remember, this dot id it is passed as a parameter, so it will be coming here. So we can write maybe user id. So this depends on you. You can write it whatever you want here, but I think it would be better if you use something relevant. So it will be user id, and then what we need to do is we need to update the array. So how we can access the arrays, this dot users, then this dot users dot filter, that's another method, and then user will be similar to what we did when we were checking the duplicate record, but the only difference is it will be not equal to user id. This way it should delete the user. What is the error here? Okay, so this dot users, let's see what we, let's see, there is an unexpected token error. So okay, so I put an extra equal. Okay, then what we can do is we don't have the pattern here. Maybe we didn't save it. Yeah, we didn't save it. So we save it, we see the button is there. uh, let's remove this one for now. If I delete this, it gets deleted. Let's add one more thing to it. For example, I want to confirm before I delete, so I can do by adding an if condition. If confirm, are you sure this action cannot be un- Sometimes what happens is you delete a record by mistake too. So it should ask you if whether you want to delete it or not. So are you sure? No, I'm not sure. Are you sure? Yes, I am. So that's how you can delete a particular record. I hope this video was useful to most of you. I tried covering most of the basic concepts used in Vue and how everything works in Vue. This video was intended for those who have some idea of Vue and how everything works. In the next lectures, I will try and focus on specific topics so that you can have a better idea of how everything works in Vue. Thanks.